Good Tuesday morning to you, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe alongside Nick Wright, Kevin Wildes. Brian Westbrook is with us this morning. Gentlemen, we got a great show for you today. Big Ben says he will be ready to go when the season starts. Cam Newton's ready to go right now. And 2,500 of Tom Brady's most interesting words. That is where we will kick off the show this morning. If you were wondering why Brady left a cushy New England job with benefits to take his talents to Tampa, wonder no longer. In an article Tom himself penned for the Players Tribune yesterday titled, "The Only Way is Through," he wrote, among other things, "I have things to prove to myself. The only way is through. If I don't go for it, I'll never know what I could have accomplished. Wanting to do something is different from actually doing it. If I stood at the bottom of the mountain and told myself I could scale the highest peak but then didn't do anything about it, what's the point of that?" We got a lot to unpack here this morning. Nick, I'll start with you. What did you take away from this article by Tom Brady?
I am so excited this morning to talk about this because we're in a bit of a sports desert right now, but this is a big, meaty piece of news, really because of what Tom Brady didn't say. Because what he did say, Jenna, as you mentioned in the over 2,500 words, is that he understood when he was growing up how to get west because you drove towards the Pacific Ocean. He didn't understand when he was growing up where exactly was New England. Is it a state? Is it a territory? Is it a collection of states? We learned about that. We learned about his mountain analogy, which I think you could have heard on this show a few months ago when I was talking about Tom Brady. We learned a lot. What we didn't learn, though, was what, if any, appreciation Tom Brady had for the other GOAT in the New England Patriot organization, Bill Belichick. Because in these 2,617 words, Tom Brady mentioned Bill Belichick's name precisely once. And it was not to talk about what Belichick did do. It was actually, as one mentioned, was talking about what Belichick didn't do. That Belichick didn't call him when he was drafted, that his assistant Burge called him instead. All these words about geography, about family, about his children, about his past, his present, his future, and not a single hat tip to the greatest coach of all time. Not a single Coach Belichick. Thank you for, putting me in the starting lineup and keeping me in the starting lineup. Or Coach Belichick, these 6 Super Bowls, the first one we won when I only threw 1 touchdown pass the entire playoff run. The second and third Super Bowls we won when your defense held Peyton Manning's Colts to 17 combined points in 2 playoff games. Or how about the most recent one we won, where I didn't come up with a touchdown at all in the game, but your defense held the Rams to 3 points. None of that anywhere in the article. A lot of esoteric thoughts about his future, about what he's trying to accomplish, how much time he has left. But Wildes, I was shocked, and if I were a Patriot fan like you, I'd be offended on Belichick's behalf that Tom Brady didn't find the time or the words for a thank you to his head coach.
See, Jenna.
What, Wildes?
This is Nick getting into the Patriots Nation and just trying to stir the pot. He gets in, tries to stir the pot, and leaves all to the benefits of his chief. He's trying to get Belichick fired up. I thought this was pinpoint perfect Tom Brady. Pinpoint perfect. Because you know how Tom Brady won all those Super Bowls? And just like Nick said, he could win Super Bowls by throwing just 1 touchdown. He was efficient and he was mistake-free. That's it. This was a piece of corporate literature sponsored by Under Armour. There was other articles called Only Way Through. Embiid wrote one. Anthony Joshua wrote one. So the goal of this article for Tom Brady was get through the article, make some nice points, don't turn the ball over, and move on to, oddly, Howard Stern. I think this article to the Howard Stern interview coming tomorrow is very odd, Jenna. I don't quite know his public strategy here. Between this makes sense, but the Stern interview tomorrow is kind of confusing to me.
See, Wildes, I think you used the right word, strategic. I think much like we didn't really know what that Hulu ad was before the Super Bowl, it all made sense. I think there's some planning, some strategy here to Tom Brady. But let's ask the guy who actually played football. Brian, what did you learn about Tom Brady himself after you read this article? Was there anything new you learned?
Well, you know what? There was a couple new things that I did learn, but here's my thoughts even before the article came out, is that I didn't think that there was anything else that Tom Brady had to prove. You know, he's won 6 Super Bowls. He's been to 9. He's been the best quarterback over the last 2 decades. He's just been awesome, and he's done it all in one place. But when you talk about the greatest competitors, you talk about Jordan and Kobe and Tiger and Tom Brady, they're motivated by something much bigger than just winning games. They're motivated by things much bigger than what I had thought Tom Brady would have been motivated by. And to me, it seems like Tom Brady is motivated by the challenge of going to a new place with new teammates, with new coaches, in a new destination, and finding a way to win the same way that Breeze did it, the same way that Manning did it. And now faced with that challenge, I think that's something that he's very excited about. But I also think this, in my mind, after reading this entire essay, I would still say that Tom Brady's heart and his body and his soul is still in New England. Unfortunately, they couldn't find a way to get him back there. But it also made me think that Tom Brady probably mentally had checked out in New England a couple years ago, similar to what Nick has been saying for quite some time.
Well, interesting that he doesn't mention Belichick just once, Nick, but his heart's still in New England. Go, Nick.
Yeah, all of these things can be true, but this wasn't a college essay where if you go over the word count, you automatically fail. It's the internet. It's not newsprint where you only have so many column inches. He could have at any point said, and let me say this about my coach, of which our relationship has been the subject of much speculation. He did not. Belichick, conversely, when he released his statement, here are some exact quotes from Bill Belichick, who, by the way, his statement was 267 words, almost exactly 1/10 the length of Tom Brady's piece. He wrote, "Our relationship is built on love, admiration, and respect." He called his career unfathomably, spectacular. Said it was a privilege to coach Tom Brady. Said his career will be celebrated forever. Said the examples of greatness are limitless. Said, quote, "I am extremely grateful for what he did for our team and for me personally." And the final line, "Sometimes in life, it takes some time to pass before truly appreciating someone. But that has not been the case with Tom. He is a special person and the greatest quarterback of all time." I would ask, Wilds, you say I'm trying to stir up Patriot Nation. Listen, Belichick, I know it's hard for you to wrap your mind around because you're still in the denial phase. The Patriot Nation I am defending right now because Belichick is still a part of it. Tom Brady is no longer a part of it. And as a Patriot fan, your head coach handled this right. But I do wonder if your former quarterback could learn from your head coach's final line. Sometimes in life, it takes time to pass before truly appreciating someone. And I do wonder when Bruce Arians is telling him to take 7-step drops and rub some dirt on it, and the defense is allowing 28 or 31 points in Tampa, even though that's a very good defense, if that is when Brady might appreciate Wilds what he had with Bill Belichick, because right now it seems like it is still very raw, Kevin, and there are still some open wounds there on Brady's behalf.
Okay, here we go. So I've got 2 boys, and they'll be sitting next to each other, and the one will start poking the other one. I say, Russ, just ignore him. He'll poke him. Russ, just ignore him, and eventually it explodes. And that's it. Nick, you have accomplished it. Now I'm ready to go. And if you were trying to stir the pot, you did it. Here's the thing. You're right. It could have gone on. He could have said a lot of things about Bill Belichick. Maybe there's another article coming, perhaps. Part of me thinks that only way is through it is not part of the Under Armour way to address the situation. And talking about your coach doesn't fit within the brand parameters of the article. But to Nick's point, part of me thinks that Tom Brady needs to reciprocate the beautiful article that Bill Belichick wrote about him, the beautiful press release. He hasn't done any of that. He wrote GOAT on the NFL 100 Instagram. But that's all we've heard. So yes, Nick, you're right. If it goes around another time, I will ratchet up and get further and further angry. But yes, you've got me. Congratulations. Now I'm upset. early in the morning. It was accomplished.
But here's what I'm wondering, guys. Who do you think is being more honest? Tom Brady penning this 2,500-word article mentioning Bill Belichick one time, or Bill Belichick writing 250-some-odd words and gushing over Tom Brady? They both seem out of character for both of them. So what do you want? The guy who seems to be more honest, or the guy who you know is just writing because that's what people want or need to hear? I also have this question for you, Brian Westbrook. Who do you think Tom Brady was writing this for? Was it just for himself so he could get himself motivated? There's usually an audience when you sit down to write something like this. Who do you think he was writing it for?
Well, the biggest person and people that I think he was writing it to was the Patriots fans. How much he loved them, how much he did things in New England, how much he loved raising his boys there. I think Tom Brady enjoyed his time in New England. I also think that Tom Brady looks at superstar athletes like Kobe and Dirk Nowitzki and says, you know what? They played their entire career in one place, and the ownership and the coaches respected them enough, even after some of their prime years were over, that they kept them there. They found a way to make it work. And I believe that Tom Brady, and this is the reason I believe he didn't mention Bill Belichick more than that one time, is because he feels like, listen, you could have found a way to keep me there. I wasn't so bad last year. Matter of fact, we were 12-4 last year as far as on the season as a team. I wasn't so bad last year that you needed to find a different way to go with a different type of quarterback. Maybe if you put more weapons around me, then at that point we could be more successful. If I'm Tom Brady, I still would be a little salty as well. Like, listen, look what I brought to this organization, and you're willing to let me go at the tail end of my career. If you could have given me a couple more years, maybe I could have spent my entire career here in New England, and I think that would have made Tom Brady very happy.
Nick, do you think Tom was angry when he wrote this? Do you think that was sort of the underlying emotion while he wrote it?
Listen, I know it seems like, and maybe understandably, that I'm poking wilds and somewhat attacking Brady here. I think what I'm doing is an accurate portrayal of what we saw, and it might, at the moment, appear unflattering for Brady. But of course he's upset. Of course he's angry. And all year long, I explained why he should be. I don't think Brady was very good last year. I think the numbers prove that. But he believed, understandably, that my 20 years of GOAT status, that the fact that I have two separate first ballot Hall of Fame careers, we learned yesterday that he was going to be unanimous first team or unanimous all-decade team in 2 different decades, that would have bought him more than just a 250-word article. I'm sure Brady is thinking, yeah, your statement was nice. Your signature on a contract would have been far better. So I would imagine he is upset about that. But where I struggle right now the most with Brady, as far as kind of giving him a pass on all of this, is whilst you alluded to it, but there is something clunky to me about Tom Brady's statement about leaving the Patriots. Think about what this is. This is a piece of sports history. It's a document that if we had what the Smithsonian is for actual history for sports, it would go in there. That it's really just an Under Armour plug? Like, what if LeBron's letter to the city of Cleveland, the I'm coming back, was, and that's why I decided I had to just do it and go back to Cleveland. You'd be like, oh, you're selling us sneakers here, Bron. Like, the only way is through. Oh, oddly enough, that's what Cam has said, and that's what Anthony Joshua has said, and I imagine Steph Curry, when he comes back from the hand injury next season, the only way is through. Like, you didn't need this to be product placement, Tom. Just like you didn't need, and I know I'm the only one that still brings it up, to do the little Super Bowl hijacking a few days before with your Instagram ad. There are some odd things going on with this Tom Brady 2.0, 3.0, whatever it is, and we're going to get to see the next layer of it, Wilds, when third-person warm weather Tom lets loose, as he said he would on Howard Stern. So all those things happened, Kevin, and I don't love that Tom Brady's farewell to the Patriots is an Under Armour ad in 2,600 words. So yesterday, Jenna, we did a drive-by happy birthday for my friend in the neighborhood. We got in the car and we sang happy birthday to him from the car to social distance.
And he said, how's the show? I said, oh, the show's going good. He goes, with no sports. He's like, I'm dying without any sports. What are you guys talking about? I was like, oh, Tom Brady just put out this article. And he said, oh, he did? Why? He's like, he put out a video too. I was like, yeah. He's like, why is he doing this? And I was like, I'm not totally sure. I'm not totally sure. So the strategy of this, I think, is weird. But just to bring it back to football for a second, I think you are seeing Tom Brady's conservative, mistake-free nature here of just kind of like being safe and putting out a very safe article. I think that's actually a clash with Bruce Arians' no risk it, no biscuit style. I don't know. Is it fair to say like, well, how you act in the media is how you actually play? Kind of. We've seen Tom Brady be very, very safe, and it's the way he acts on the football field. I wonder what warm weather Tom will be if he's going to be willing to be throwing the ball all over the field like Jameis. I'm so worked up because Tom Brady is going to be a new guy now.
Time for drawing a blank. 30-year-old free agent Cam Newton is still looking for a team to call home. Very unfamiliar territory for him. How unfamiliar? He said yesterday, I'm a fish out of water. Nick, Cam Newton's 2020 season will be blank.
Before I answer this, let me quickly say my answer here is really predicated on Kevin Wild's addition to the show. It's one of the reasons I'm so thrilled Kevin's on the show, because it's forced me to expand my brain and try to think outside the box a bit. So, Cam Newton's 2020 season will be Robert Downey Jr.'s 2008. What happened with Robert Downey Jr. in 2008? Iron Man came out, Tropic Thunder came out, the Zodiac had just come out, and everyone's like, oh yeah, this guy's a superstar. What happened to him? Why did everyone act like this guy wasn't good anymore? He's always been awesome. He's an A-lister. Same thing gonna happen with Cam. He bounces around free agency, gets released by the Panthers, catches on somewhere, and in 2020 we're gonna be like, oh yeah, he's one of the 10 best quarterbacks alive. He's a superstar. He's an A-lister. Why was he ever available? So Brian Westbrook, Cam Newton's 2020 is going to be Robert Downey Jr.'s 2008. What say you, Brian Westbrook?
2000.
I say his 2020 season will be unpredictable. And here's the thing. We've seen all the videos of Cam looking like he's in the best shape of his life, throwing the football, working on his body. I mean, his body looks great. I mean, you were talking about bodybuilding and those types of things. But the biggest question and why I'm saying unpredictable is because the injuries. And I dealt with a bunch of injuries throughout my career. And you never know, no matter which shape you're in, how those injuries will pop up. Liz Frank, the shoulder, the ankle, all those different things could pop up at the wrong time. And so that's why I say unpredictable.
Jenna, I'm going to go with Ray Allen-esque. When Ray Allen came into the league, he was flying around, he was dunking. He was only shooting 3.6 threes a game. Fast forward 10 years, Ray Allen shooting 8 threes a game, and he wins LeBron a championship. So when Cam ends up on the Patriots, I think Belichick is going to totally change his game. There's not going to be no more jumping over the pile. There might be that little Tom Brady QB sneak that's very safe, but Ray Allen-esque is what I'm going with, Jenna.
All right, good stuff. Let's move on to Tom Brady now and his resume that reads like a novel at this point. He was a unanimous selection for the 2010s All-Decade team yesterday. Pair that with his 2000s All-Decade team honors, and Brady becomes the first quarterback to make 2 All-Decade teams. Nick, Brady's latest accomplishment is blank.
Never happening again. This is where Tom Brady's greatness is actually understated historically. Now, there is a bit of luck in this, in that in order to do this, your rookie season really needs to be at the very beginning of a decade. So 2 decades, really, your 20 years span exactly 2 decades. But even with that happening, he had to make the most out of every single season available to him. I don't think we will ever see this at the quarterback position again. We had never seen it prior. We had only seen a few skill position guys ever do it. Jerry Rice did it. Walter Payton did it. Some offensive linemen and defensive linemen did it. But at the quarterback spot, even my guy Mahomes, in order for him to do it, he'd have to play like 25 years because he came to the league in 2017. So I say never happening again, Brian Westbrook. It's one of his top of the resume accomplishments.
You know, his ability to make 2 all-decade teams is simply amazing. I mean, and here's the reason why. I understand as an athlete, you can go through a 10-year span and be at the top of your game. But I also understand as you go up that hill, there's a down part of that hill. There's a decline. But for Tom to be able to span another 10 years, another decade, and still be at the top, win Super Bowls, that's simply amazing. And you're right. I don't think anyone else will ever be able to do it, especially with one team of the way that Tom Brady has been able to do it.
Okay. Jen, I'm going to go the exact opposite direction. I went with commonplace. I think this is going to happen moderately often because all of the trends are pointing to longer and longer longevity for quarterbacks. Think about the guys who are playing now. Big Ben, Phillip Rivers, Aaron Rodgers says he wants to play till he's 40, Drew Brees. It's not like Big Ben is the picture of health for his career, and he certainly wasn't 20 years ago. So now when guys are coming up, they're going to be like, wow, I can play till I'm 40. There's 5 guys playing till I'm 40. Trevor Lawrence, when he's with the Patriots in 2040, Nick, when we're doing this show again, mark it down. I'll be like, remember I told you in 2020 Trevor Lawrence was going to be able to do this? You're like, oh, right, Wild, you got a long gray beard. Like, I forgot about that. So write that down. Maybe put it in the Google Doc, guys, for 2040.
Kevin, if we're still doing the show at 2040, Trevor Lawrence is not going to be our biggest issue. Sticking with Tom Brady now, he released his Players Tribune article yesterday explaining his departure from the Patriots. He used 2,500 words. Some words he used more than once, like the and so. Oh. Some words he used only once, like Belichick and who cares, with other words, because Belichick is the only one we are interested in. Nick, Brady leaving Belichick out of his article, save for one time, is blank.
I'll answer that in just a question, but just on us doing the show in 2040, I would be... By the way, FS1, if you're watching right now, and I hope you are because it's on FS1, I'll sign that contract today. I'll sign the contract today to do the show till 2040, no questions asked. And if we are doing it till 2040, Jenna will still be claiming to be in her early 40s. It'll be amazing how that happens. Now, to answer this question.
Couldn't get through a show.
Tom Brady... only mentioning Bill Belichick in this article one time, and it was to say what Belichick didn't do, which is he didn't call him on draft day, is warm weather Tom. I mean, I just feel like this is the Tom Brady 2.0. He told us warm weather Tom lets loose. Warm weather Tom evidently doesn't give thanks where it's due. Warm weather Tom forgets about the people who helped him get to where he is. So the answer to this, Brian Westbrook, for me is warm weather Tom.
The real answer is that it's telling. It's telling how Tom actually feels about Bill Belichick, how he feels about having to pack up all his things in New England and move his kids from New England down to Florida and figure things out down there. It also shows you the feeling that he probably had for quite some time in not being able to get the contracts, being the GOAT. When you're the GOAT, you don't never get pushed out of an organization. They don't say you can't come back. They say things like they said to Dirk, who couldn't even run his last couple years in Dallas. They say, listen, you can play here as long as you want to play basketball. That's what they should have been saying to Tom Brady. You can play here in New England as long as you want to play. And it's very telling that he skipped Bill Belichick's name except for that time.
Jenna, I'm going with my leaky fridge. We moved into this house. We're like, oh, this is a nice kitchen. It's got a sink with a long handle you can pull and wash the dishes. And it's got some nice cabinets. I was like, this is great. And then the fridge started leaking, and it's in my basement, and I got paint everywhere, and we had to pay someone to come fix it all, and it's leaking again. I'm looking at it. I got brown water stains everywhere. And here's why I say leaky fridge. Sorry, Tom Brady. Yeah, all the outside looks nice, but it's also the system within the Patriots organization.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going on my leaky fridge.
Makes
the system works for the Patriots, and I'm not sure the system works. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's continue to discuss Tom Brady and perhaps Wild's infrastructure at his home. The Tampa Bay Bucks apparently had a code name for landing TB12, calling the pursuit of Brady Operation Shoeless Joe Jackson. I guess if you build it, Brady will come. Nick, the Bucks having a code name for Brady is blank.
Here we go. Here we go, America. I can't wait for this. Is just
code name. Listen, I consider myself an A-level basketball historian. I consider myself a pretty decent football historian. I will admit, I'm not Christopher Mad Dog Russo when it comes to my baseball history. But if I'm not mistaken, Shoeless Joe Jackson was a part of the most notorious cheating scandal in the history of baseball, right? He was on that team. But Shoeless Joe, famously, the belief is he didn't engage in the cheating along with the rest of his teammates. So my answer is it's ironic because I'm not saying the Patriots have engaged in 2 decades of breaking rules. What I am saying is there have been a lot of allegations. Yet despite all those allegations, there's only been one player who actually was punished by the league for engaging in it. It wasn't Gronk, wasn't Edelman. Hold on, it wasn't Matt.
See,
White.
there we go.
It was Brady, who missed a quarter of a season for his involvement in the ball deflating scandal. So, in respect to the late great Shoeless Joe, I would say it's ironic that they gave the Tom Brady operation his name, Brian Westbrook.
You know what, Nick? I actually like that a lot. I didn't think about that, but I'm going to say they're hungry. You know, they're hungry to win down there in Tampa Bay. They're trying to find a winner. They got a bunch of talent on the offensive side of the ball, but in the defense played very well the last 6 games of the season. They just need a quarterback that, you know, you don't have to throw 30 touchdowns, but you definitely cannot throw 30 interceptions. If they can find a guy, and they found that guy in Tom Brady, who's not going to turn the ball over, can win some games. The other thing that I thought about that I didn't mention is that it's kind of corny. Like, hey, just go get the best quarterback out there. You're out there, you're hungry, but it's kind of corny that you're talking about Shoeless Joe Jackson when you're talking about the GOAT, Tom Brady.
Nick, you think corny is the word you'd use?
Yes.
It is a little weird, huh?
Oh, I like all of it. I also like the fact that my answer bothered Wild so much he left. I hope he comes back.
Then
I'm not
he's
certain
gone.
if he is, but he knows deep down. He knows deep down that it is ironic, that it is
you were
corny,
right.
all of it. And Wild, listen, so here's what we need to do, Jenna. I think we need to call Wild's amazing wife, Libby, have her check on him, and hopefully he'll be back with his head intact as we continue the television show.
Look who's joining us now. Colts O-Pro linebacker, Darius Leonard. Darius, good morning. Thank you so much for being with us. We hope you and your family are well and safe, and we're going to jump right in. You're outside. We're stuck inside. It looks glorious and lovely there. Tell us a little bit about what your quarantine time has looked like the last couple of weeks.
You know, I was in Tampa, Florida, and once they shut everything down in Tampa, I came back down to South Carolina, just be around the family, and you know, still working out at 5 in the morning, and you know, then just kind of relaxing from there.
Darius, I think a lot of people know your story of the last 2 years. Instantly walked into the NFL as an all-pro level player, nearly 300 tackles in 2 seasons, one of the absolute best players in the league through only 2 years. But I don't know how many people know about the story beforehand. You had some tragedy early in your life. You wanted to go to Clemson, where your brother went. You didn't get an offer. You end up at South Carolina State, for which has some amazing football and political alumni, but it's obviously not a Division I program. Can you tell the audience a little bit about your path to the NFL? Because I think it's an amazing story.
You know, first of all, I went to a small high school here in South Carolina. So, you know, just being overlooked coming out of high school, like I said, you know, didn't have any big-time offers. South Carolina State was the only big offer that I had. I went to South Carolina State, was playing receiver and linebacker, didn't know exactly what position I was going to play. Then I moved to linebacker, you know, had to fight my way up, you know, just having that dog mentality, wanting to prove everybody wrong, and, you know, just getting everything out of the gutter, you know, that made me who I am today, you know, just pushing, just striving to be the best.
Darius, I know you're on the other side of the ball, but you guys added Phillip Rivers as your quarterback now. What was your initial reaction in hearing the news? And does Phillip Rivers' leadership have any carryover to the defense or the entire team?
You know, when I first found out, you know, it was very shocking. Definitely looking forward to him coming in, being that competitor that he is, that veteran that he is. and his leadership skills, being a quarterback, that leadership role is much bigger than the offensive side of the ball. They show exactly what it takes to be an NFL ball player, and they show how to do all the right things. So I do think that his leadership role can, spill over to the defensive side of the ball and the special team as well.
Darius, this has been an offseason full of rumors, a lot of quarterbacks circulating around, wondering where everyone's going to end up. You guys got Phillip Rivers. There were reports that the Colts were interested in getting Tom Brady. Is there something to, knowing that this is probably Tom Brady's last team or last contract, is there something to wishing that you could have, or wondered what it would have been like to play on a team with a guy who many people call the greatest of all time?
There's some times where you do think, what would it be like to play against, play with Tom Brady, him being the greatest of all time, him being that leader, to being a 6-time Super Bowl champion. You want to be around someone who knows how to win, to pick their brains a little bit, or, just in practice, facing him day in and day out to make yourself better. So, there are things that you do really think about of playing a quarterback like that.
We've talked a lot about quarterbacks, Darius. I want to ask you about the guy who played quarterback for you for the majority of your first 2 seasons, Jacoby. I thought you guys looked like the best team in the division until he got hurt. I know he came back and played through the injury, but he wasn't really himself. When you sign Phillip Rivers $25 million, it becomes his job, so to speak. Do you think Jacoby is a starting quarterback in this league? And
yes.
At his best, how good do you think you guys could have been? Go ahead.
Oh, that's an easy question. We were 5-2 with him 100%. Then he got hurt, and I think that took a toll of his game a little bit, especially with his knee. As a quarterback, you got to have your lower strength. And I really do think he's a starting quarterback. And I think if he would stay healthy the whole year last year, I really do think would have been a playoff contender team and probably run deep in the playoffs.
Darius, I'm going to switch gears a bit here. Last month, we had a big day in my house. My son, who's in kindergarten, came home and said he was engaged. He had proposed to someone in kindergarten. And my wife and I said we entertained it. We said, oh, that's funny. That's cute. And we pretended to we paid a little lip service to it. But then I read your story and that you met your wife in kindergarten. So I said, oh, my goodness, I had to tell my wife, how seriously should I be taking my son's proposal?
You might want to take it serious. Because, I remember when I was younger, my wife, Kayla, I remember we used to play family back in kindergarten. And now that we're married and we have a family, who would have thought all that playing around in kindergarten really came true? So you might want to pay that some serious attention.
I like it. All right, Darius, let's return to focus back on the field. You have the privilege of playing the Titans twice a year, which means you have the privilege of playing and tackling the league's leading rusher in Derrick Henry. What was that like, and what are you, now that you've played against it and tried to stop it, what do you look forward to next season?
Derrick Henry is is a great running back, and playing against him twice a year is definitely a challenge. I always say he's a defensive end playing running back. I'm a small linebacker. He outweighs me about maybe 20 to 30 pounds. And, a guy like me, I'll always say it's not the size of the dog that's in the fight, it's the size of the fight that's in the dog. And, just facing him, it makes me so much better in my game. And, having my defensive line coming back and adding some new faces to the defensive line, having the same linebacker core, and we always say it's 11 versus 1 against when we tackling him. So we definitely just got to have everybody get into the ball.
I think people watching this interview might be surprised if they don't already know this. Your nickname is the Maniac or Maniac. You seem very understated. You're chill. You met your wife when you were 5. You're a family man. How did the nickname come about, and why do you embrace it?
The Maniac name came about my junior year after I played against Clemson. I had 19 tackles and a blocked field goal. And I came back on campus and someone said, hey, man, you play like a straight maniac. And once they said it, that kind of clicked. I kind of went with it. And, me on the field versus off the field is two different guys. On I'm out there running around, jumping up and down, going crazy, just trying to make every single play. Then when I'm off the field, I'm the most polite guy, very well-mannered, and, nobody would think that the guy that's on the field is the same guy that's off the field, and I embrace both of them.
Darius, you guys finished the season 1-4, kind of like a lackluster finish. What do you need to do this upcoming year to carry your momentum that you had early in the year all the way through?
I got to be more consistent. I'm only going to speak on the defensive side of the ball with me being one of the defensive leaders. I really felt like defensively we was inconsistent. That was sometimes where we played a great first half and then we go out the second half and don't play as well. So we got to see exactly what was the difference between our first half and second half ball games and see can we fix whatever problem that we have, and hopefully we can fix that leak, and hopefully we can hit the ground running and don't have any inconsistency in our game this year.
Darius, when you were in 8th grade, your teacher asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up, and very confidently you just wrote down a professional football player. In kindergarten, you met your friend and you're like, yep, that's going to be my wife. I love that you've had most of your life set out for you long before the rest of us did. We thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's been a pleasure getting to know you again. Good luck this season, and thanks. Tomorrow morning, you're not going to want to miss this. The newest Baltimore Raven, All-Pro defensive end Calais Campbell, will be joining us, talking about his latest honor of joining the 2010s All-Decade team, among other things. Not going to want to miss it tomorrow morning on First Things First. Time now for stories to start your morning. Sticking with the 2010s All-Decade team, Tom Brady, J.J. Watt, and Adrian Peterson were among the 8 unanimous picks. The other quarterback joining Brady was Aaron Rodgers. Nick, did Drew Brees get snubbed for Rodgers here?
No, I don't understand the uproar about this. I get the fact that Brees threw for more touchdowns and had more yards this decade. However, this decade, Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl. Brees did not. This decade, Aaron Rodgers won 2 league MVPs. Brees won 0. This decade, Aaron Rodgers was first-team All-Pro twice. Brees was first-team All-Pro 0 times. Aaron Rodgers was the next best quarterback and maybe the best quarterback of the decade, but certainly the second most accomplished behind Brady. So I feel badly for Brees, but much like Dan Marino, Brees is going to go his whole career without ever being on an all-decade team. Wilds, it seems impossible, but that's what happened to Marino in the 80s and 90s. That's what's happening to Brees in the 2000s and the 2010s, Kevin Wilds.
I think somebody's got to be out. That's just the way it goes. So we look at this next decade, Nick. I'm just going to put a little scare into you. Suppose Tua's going to come out and Trevor Lawrence. We both think they're going to be great. We know Lamar is going to be great. There could be a point in 10 years. Is it Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson? And we're like, remember, we're doing the show in 2030 now. We're like, wow, Nick, how upset are you that Patrick Mahomes did not make the list?
Yeah, no, it's fair. And by the way, why the argument is Brian Westbrook. I know people are saying, did Drew Brees get snubbed? I mean, if I'm being honest, I feel like maybe Mahomes got snubbed a bit. I mean, he did win an MVP, a Super Bowl MVP, and a Super Bowl championship this decade, but that's just me speaking here. But go ahead, Westbrook.
It was coming.
Yeah, I had a feeling that at some point Patrick Mahomes had to be brought up in the show, and Nick waited until the last segment to bring him up, which is kind of surprising there. He usually likes to bring Patrick Mahomes up at the start of the show, but you know what? Drew Brees was not snubbed. The Saints missed the playoffs 4 times in this past decade. In fact, they were 7-9. And when you're talking about one of the best quarterbacks that have ever played the game, and Drew Brees, I do not expect his football team to miss the playoffs 3 years in a row, 2014, 2015, and 2016. And really, I also didn't expect him to lose this year in the wild card round to the Minnesota Vikings and Kirk Cousins. And so because of all those things, I'm not surprised that he did not make the all-decade team.
All right, so Tom Brady has now made 2 all-decade teams, the first quarterback to accomplish this. Nick, you think we ever see a quarterback do this again?
No, and this speaks to Brady's unprecedented greatness. If you were to bisect Tom Brady's career in 2010, what you would have is two separate first ballot Hall of Fame careers. He and Jerry Rice are the only two guys who, if you cut their career in half, not only are they two great careers, they are both Hall of Fame careers. Brady from 2001 to 2010, 3 Super Bowl championships, 4 appearances, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and 2 league MVPs. That makes him one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks ever. Brady from 2011 to right now, 3 Super Bowl championships, 5 appearances, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and 1 league MVP. That makes him one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks ever. Wilds, I don't believe we will ever see this again. It was a perfect storm, and Brady oddly accomplished had almost identical accomplishments in the 20-aughts and the 2010s. That's how you become first team all-decade for the 20-aughts and unanimous for the 2010s, Kevin Wilds.
Brian, oddly, I think this is going to be commonplace. I think there's 2 reasons. 1, the NFL rules are all trending towards quarterback safety. 2, nutrition. It's not just going to be Tom Brady eating right and having avocado shakes every morning. It's going to be everybody. So when Trevor Lawrence comes into the league, he looks around and says, wow, I can play for 20 years. I think this is going to be moderately common to see quarterbacks play for 2 decades, and we'll get a few people who are leaping both decades to be an all-decade team player.
Well, Kevin, I think it kind of makes sense that players in the future may be able to play longer, maybe even 20 years, but that's not what Tom Brady did. That wasn't the only thing that Tom Brady did. Tom Brady was great for 2 decades. He just wasn't playing. He just wasn't a guy. He was in his prime for 2 decades, and that's the hard thing to be able to do, because at some point in your career, you have to decline just because your skill set and father time is undefeated. And so I just think that it's going to be almost impossible to find someone else to be able to compete at this high of a level for 2 decades in the way that Tom Brady has done.
And if I can expand on it quickly here, Jenna, just think about this as well.
Go ahead.
Though I apologize, Jenna, that's my mistake. I just do expand on answer the question. Think about the guys Brady kept off the list. Drew Brees never made one. Big Ben, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson, Kurt Warner, all these great quarterbacks who never made an all-decade team, in part because Brady was always taking up a spot. But to answer your question, the other thing I took away from this list was, I know Wilds will want to say the Patriots were the team of the decade, but were the Chiefs the team of the decade? I just see Chiefs all over this list. LaShawn McCoy on the all-decade team. He was a Chief. Darrelle Revis was a Chief. Eric Berry was a Chief. But we certainly know who the team of the next decade will be. Yeah, he was. That's where he finished his career. Look it up. But we certainly know who the team of the next decade will be because Kevin Wilds, did you see who had 3 active players on this list? All-decade member Travis Kelce, all-decade member Honey Badger, all-decade member Tyreek Hill. Not only all active, not only all still in their prime, but all locked in to the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs for 2020 and 2021, the first 2 years of the next decade. So that was my other takeaway. Jenna Wolfe, sorry to step on the question earlier. I was just so excited to discuss this. The Chiefs, arguably the team of the last decade because nobody cared, and now certainly Wilds going to be the team of the next decade.
Gosh. My fault for getting him fired up with takeaways.
Jenna, I talked about this. There's nothing worse when the guy is right. Here's my one counterpoint. Every player is getting a little bit worse. Injuries, NFL's a tough sport. It's just getting a little bit worse. Except there's one guy on that list who's getting better. He's just getting smarter. And it's Bill Belichick being coach of the decade. He's actually just going to get better and better and better. As the Chiefs trend this way, bingo, here comes Belichick. Blammo, going this way. That's my retort. Brian?
You know, Kevin, I wish that Bill Belichick would get better. That means that he was able to win without the best quarterback of all time in Tom Brady. And I just don't know if that can happen. But when you mention coach, and I look at this list, I have to bring up my old football coach, Andy Reid. He took a Kansas City Chiefs team that was 2-14 when he got there, had a bunch of Pro Bowlers, but didn't know how to play together. that was 2-14. He brought that team into a situation where they've won double-digit games in each of the next 7 or 8 years, except for 2014, and a Super Bowl as well. And Nick talks about all the players on the all-decade team. A lot of that has to do with the guidance and the leadership that Andy Reid brought to that organization, and you have to have him on that list if you're talking about all-decade team as well as coaches.
Are we taking Bill Belichick?
Right, Brian Westbrook should have been the coach. No, Pete Carroll, you're out of here. Andy Reid should have been on there. And Jenna, when we're looking to the 2020s, Westbrook said, I wait every day to get Mahomes into the show. Is there any question he's going to be the all-decade quarterback of the next decade? Travis Kelce going to do it back-to-back just like Brady did. Honey Badger, why not? Eric Berry might come back next year. Jenna, it's all coming up Chiefs in 2020.
America, he doesn't stop when the camera goes off. He's going to keep going. We have to stop. Stay well. Stay safe, everyone. Back tomorrow.